Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
What?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Ach, das war eine schöne Geschichte. Oh, es beginnt wieder von vorne. Jeremy, was soll ich jetzt machen? Jetzt mache ich den Verrückten. Wenn ich das Spiel wieder öffnen würde.
Wie war das, wenn du bei den beiden Türen bist und er sagt, du sollst die linke Tür nehmen, wenn du da einfach wartest?
Keine Ahnung, ich weiß nur, dass sich das Spiel nicht mehr öffnet. Hör, warum öffnest du dich denn nicht? Was ist denn nie? Hey, los! Do it! Oh gosh! Toll, super. Was jetzt, wo ich in das Spiel reinkomme, beendet sich das Spiel. Ach, Mann. Ach, Mann.
Ich überlege, ob ich es auch gerade spiele. Ich das installiert? Ah.
Weiß nicht. Loading. Ich glaube, ich hole mir jetzt so ein richtig verrücktes Ende. Wo kann man denn überall lang gehen? Ich muss irgendwie versuchen zu cheaten, dann komme ich in den Cheater-Raum.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Wie schafft man es denn zu cheaten?
Ich weiß nicht, wenn man in der Konsole irgendwie was eingibt, dann kommt man in den Cheater-Raum.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Okay.
Yet there was not a single person
bitte
here
so.
either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might come to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Mist, ich weiß nicht den PIN-Code. Ist jetzt scheiße.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Mann, was ist es denn?
Stanley simply began entering 2845.
Ich glaube, ich werde hier noch Jahre vorsitzen.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Das ist, wenn du 1, 3, 3, 7 eingibst.
Nicht, aber ich habe einfach so getan, als wenn ich es nicht wusste. Hat das selber aufgemacht. Ja, what the fuck?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him?